One of the issues that we've heard is why would you include extraterrestrials or eugenics in depopulation or some of the more typically socially taboo issues in the movie if that will just distract people from hearing other things that we're saying about the economics and the banking, for example. What's interesting is that hardly any two people have the same things that they would suggest that we leave out. So there's that point. But in terms of extraterrestrials, the reason that we chose to include that is because we believe through a lot of research that there's, and through our own experience in visiting laboratories, that there is technology that could completely transform the oil economy that we're now dependent upon. One of the ways that you can sort of have a proof of concept of that technology is the evidence of extraterrestrials traveling through the universe and visiting Earth. And there's so much credible evidence that, in fact, there are UFOs, unidentified flying objects, making contact with Earth. How are they traveling? And what I believe is that they're traveling using the same technology that I've had the blessing to witness in these laboratories. But the point is that including extraterrestrials was because it's a proof of concept of the technology that I believe can liberate our civilization in a way that, not just in terms of the technology, but in terms of a paradigm of abundance as well, because clearly they're tapping into something besides having, fossil fuels strapped on their spaceship. And in terms of the other most radical issue that we bring up, which has to do with eugenics and depopulation, we talked a lot about that. There's nothing in this movie that we didn't discuss for months and probably years about what would make it in and what didn't. And that was the one that we had the hardest time making the decision about. And I'll tell you the reason that we decided to include it had to do with when in Northern California there was a spray program that came down through George Bush Jr. In 2007, I think it was. Anyway, it was a 10-year program where they were going to do an aerial spray to deal with the light brown apple moth that was causing no damage to the fruit. But anyway, it was this aerial spray that they were going to do for 10 years over 11 million people throughout the Bay Area. And if I weren't educated about depopulation and eugenics, I would have thought that that was, an unfortunate thing. I might not have liked the sense of invasion or something, but I wouldn't have known to actually look for endocrine disruptors. But because I was educated about it, and I have, my daughter, who I want to be able to have children, I wanted to find out what's in this spray because I know from my research that the government has been responsible for spraying toxic chemicals on our own population here. So knowing that informed me to take the next step, to do the work, to do the Freedom of Information requests and so on, to get informed from, and that information is what allowed us to actually effectively stop the spray. It was the information that that technique is used and has been used. Very few people of color doubt that that's a technique that's been used because it's been used mostly against them all over this planet. So that's another thing. It tends to be by, some of these issues go by race and class, which people object to which ones. But in terms of depopulation, we ultimately decided that it needed to be included because we feel that the point of the movie was to cover the minimum sufficient understanding that we need to engage in effective solutions. And to me, one effective solution is to make sure that we're not being sprayed with toxins that can render people infertile and sick. It's been really interesting to me to hear from people that they feel like we set the movie up to be us versus them and to create a real conflict and antagonistic relationship between the banking elite and the people. And even I've heard from some that, we really made them evil. And spending the time that I did with every single word in the script, and which is available at thrivemovement.com, I can say that we never use the word evil. And we actually, it's been kind of surprising to me because on a personal level, like I was reading the paper the other day And this woman, her son had been hit. It was a hit-and-run accident. And he was killed, and the picture was of her grieving, and everyone was standing around, and they were just hoping to be able to find out who did it. And it wasn't because she thought the driver was evil, or that she wanted to kill him, or anything like that. In fact, she recognized that he must be in a huge amount of pain to carry the burden of having done what he did. But there was a certain presumption that there would be reconciliation and more justice if through that pain there was somehow knowing who did it and who was responsible for it. And, you know, that's true everywhere throughout our culture. And to me, naming who is responsible for something is not the same as making them evil, or saying that none of us could do something in the same, if we were in the same position, or that they're not hurting or any of that. It's simply to say, in order to stop them from doing what they're doing, and to have that sense of reconciliation and justice, it seems appropriate to me to name them. And they're individuals, they're people on the planet right now. It's not some amorphous force of an agenda. It's actually human beings making decisions. And if you think it's an accident, or you think it's premeditated murder, which I happen to believe it is, in any case, it goes with me in my way of thinking to be a part of justice. And we can all begin a process of healing much sooner by naming that and bring them to accountability. That's what it is for me. Friends have asked how it is to be a controversial figure these days. And, you know, it's uncomfortable, like it would be for anybody, I'm sure. It's just, it's liberating also, and I'll tell you why. I remember in 1990, I had my last child, and it was the time of the first Gulf War. And I remember being up in the middle of the night, like most new mothers are with their babies, and it was at the time that, it was like a military hardware show on TV. They put classical music behind these bombs going off, killing people. And I was there in all the tenderness of being a new mother with my little baby, and thinking, oh my God, like, what if I were there? What if instead of just losing my sleep, which I was doing, I was actually concerned about whether or not my baby was going to be killed? And I thought, what I would do if I were in that situation would be that I would really hope that there would be a mother somewhere else who wasn't in this situation who would help. And I realized that I'm that mother. I'm the one who isn't being bombed right now, and who in fact had the time and the privilege and the confidence to engage in actively doing something to help avert this. So I feel like, you know, it's a bold statement. Thrive is a bold statement, and I speak out, and I do it because it's what I would want someone to do if I couldn't. And also because I feel peace in my heart for naming what I believe is true. And I believe that if everybody did that, we would have a much better world.